Hey, what's going on guys, and welcome back to another video. So with Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition right around the corner, I figured it's very important for you guys to stay up to date with the new civilizations that will be introduced with the release of this game. So in today's video, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the 4 new civilizations: the Bulgarians, the Cumans, the Lithuanians, and the Tatars, or the Tatars. I don't know how to pronounce that. And I'm going to go ahead and quickly give you guys an overview of each civilization, as well as how I think they will stack up in the competitive scene for 1v1 Arabia. Now, just a heads up, this is not going to be a very detailed overview. I'm really just going to give a quick scan of some of the things I think will be game-changing and impactful, as well as a quick look at their unique techs and tech tree, and just talk about these civs in general. I do plan on doing series later covering, all the civs and talk about how they should be played competitively, as well as where they stack up in a tier list, for example. But for now, we'll just stick with a very quick overview of the new civs. So without further ado, let's hop right into the video. Alright, so here is the tech tree. Let's go ahead and check out the Bulgarians first. So Bulgarians are classified as an infantry and cavalry civilization. Let's quickly talk about their bonuses, and then I'll give you guys a rundown of their tech tree and what I think will be their best strategies. So first off, they get the militia line upgrades for free. This is pretty good overall, but definitely most notably good for their early game men at arm rush, because not only do they save the resources on the men at arm upgrade, but they're also saving the time. So the early feudal age, they're going to get the men at arm upgrade right away, and their men at arm rush, if combined with towers, can be very deadly. Their town center is costing minus 50% stone. This is mostly good because if you make a tower in feudal age, the tower costs 125 stone, which leaves you with 75 stone. And normally you can't make a TC, which costs 100 stone. However, if you cut that price in half, it costs 50 stone, and you actually can make a TC. So I think that's the best use of this bonus. It lets you make a tower and a town center. And then you can build a crepo. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Basically, think of it as half a castle. It costs 350 stone. It has almost half the HP of a castle, and it has some of the same, same stats, but a bit lowered. And it could also let you make your unique unit, which is the Conic, which is a cavalry unit that when it dies, it gets dismounted and fights as a infantry unit, which is quite interesting. Unique techs are the stirrups, like cavalry and Conics attack 25% faster. I think this is definitely a very solid, upgrade. It's not too expensive, so I think in late game fights, so in Imperial Age or even late Castle Age fights, we can see this upgrade being very effective. Their other unique tech is not as good in my opinion. It's the Baggins, giving the militia line +3 melee armor. This is okay, but since they're missing the champion, it's actually not the best in late game. And I mean, I could see where it would come up in trash fights. I just don't see it being justified considering how expensive it costs. Their team bonus is nothing special, but it's okay. Blacksmith work 50% faster. Not game changing, but it can help in certain situations. Alright, so for the tech tree, the most important part here is that they are missing the crossbowmen out of their range, which is the second civ in the game to have that happen. The first, of course, being the Spanish. So archers not going to be that good of an option after the feudal age. Aside from that, cav archers are pretty good. They get most of the upgrades there. They're missing the champion, so I think this is simply to balance out the free militia line upgrade. However, they do get halbs, as well as 3 generic barracks upgrades: squires, arson, and supplies. Supplies is a new upgrade, costs 150 food and 100 gold, giving the militia line costing minus 15 food. So that's going to be pretty good. It drops their militia or men at arm or whatever from 60 food to 45 food. So it's not too bad. A little bonus there. I guess it could be really good for late game infantry spam. Their stable is very solid. Paladin, Hussar, fully upgraded. Bloodlands, Husbandry, no complaints. Siege Workshop is also really good, giving access to all 3 top tier siege units, only missing the Bombard Cannon. Their Blacksmith is also very flexible, only missing the Ring Archer armor, which is not that big a deal considering it's not really going to be an archer focused civ. And then the Cav Archer has the Parthian tactics to make up for it. Navy, I mean, pretty lackluster. It's pretty much only Galleon in the late game. For the university, they do have siege engineers, which is the most important one. Goes really nicely with their really good siege shop. So pretty solid stuff there. Next up, let's take a look at their unique unit. So the Conic, there's the description. Like I said, it basically just fights and then fights as an infantry. It fights as a cavalry, and then when it dies, fights as an infantry on the field. It's pretty good in melee fights, but I think it's not the best versus ranged. I think it's overall a decent unit, but I'm not sure how much play we'll see. We'll see of it in competitive or even just in regular games. We'll keep an eye on it. Definitely an interesting unit. And finally, the Krepost. It's a mini castle. Here are the stats of it. I think the most important thing about this is that it gives you 20 housing space, and it lets you actually create the Conic from it. So I don't see why you wouldn't go for a Krepost in Castle Age, for example. In Imperial Age, the castle lets you make Trebs and Petards and Conscription and all that stuff. However, in Castle Age, you know, Krepost could be a really good replacement for the castle. So definitely very solid, only costing 350 stone. So as far as the Bulgarians being used in, you know, competitive play, where I see them stacking up on the tier list, for example, honestly, I see them being a mid-tier Civ, maybe a stronger mid-tier Civ, and here's why. I think their early game is very strong. They get free men-at-arm upgrade, which makes it, you know, really, really powerful to go with men-at-arms and towers, or just super fast men-at-arms like 20 pop. However, I do think that their men-at-arm rush is kind of telegraphed because it's really their only bonus in Feudal Age, and so, you know, if they don't go for men-at-arms, they're not really making use of the Civ, which makes your opponent know exactly what you're going to go for beforehand. So that's maybe the only weakness of the Civ in Feudal Age. In Castle Age, they don't really have a lot going for them. They don't have an eco bonus, so to speak. Only bonuses for Castle Age is the town center is costing minus 50% stone. So you save a little bit on the stone, and you can also build Krepos. So if you make use of those two bonuses, you could get by in Castle Age. I mean, they're missing the crossbow, so right away, their options are a bit lower in Castle. I do think that's probably the weak point of the Civ. And then in Imp, it picks back up with some of the really strong unique techs. So Stirrups in late Castle, early Imp could be really strong, as well as, you know, the really strong options like Paladin or Halb and Siege. So I think good early game, lackluster in the mid game, but picks back up in late game as well. All right, so that's the Bulgarians, definitely a mid-tier Civ for me. Let's go ahead and check out the Cumans now, which are classified as a cavalry civilization. Just a heads up, the Cumans are completely nuts compared to the other civs in the game. So first off here, they are a cavalry civilization. Their additional town center can be placed in Feudal Age, so they can go up to 2 TCs in Feudal Age, which is definitely insane. We'll talk a bit more about that later and how I think that plays into the meta. Their siege workshop and battering rams are available in the Feudal Age as well, so they're getting 2 buildings in the Feudal Age that are normally inaccessible until the Castle Age, so that's definitely interesting. I'm not quite sure how that's going to play into the meta so far, although I do have some speculation about it. And then their cavalry is 10% faster starting in Feudal Age as well. I think that's one of their most underrated bonuses, and I'll tell you guys why in a second. Unique unit is the Kipchak. Think about this as original game Mengadai. It has pretty much no fire delay, so as soon as it stops, it shoots instantly. So it's very easy to micro around, and it's just an overall really strong cav archer unit. The unique techs are Steppe Husbandry, which gives light cavalry and cav archers, 80% faster production. This is really strong in my opinion in late game cav archer hussar combination. It just makes you train units lightning fast, and if you think about Goths producing faster from barracks, this is pretty much the equivalent, but from stables for light cavalry and from archery ranges for cav archer. The other unique tech is the Cuman Mercenaries. Team members can create 10 free elite Kipchaks, which is the unique unit in the castle. So how this works is basically you make this upgrade, and then each of your allies has like the elite Kipchak icon appears in the castle, and they can actually make the 10. It takes time for them to make it, but then once they make it, they do get the unit for free. It costs nothing. So I think this is an interesting bonus. I'm not sure how strong or weak it is, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. And their team bonus is actually quite nice. Palisade walls plus 50% HP. Could definitely help in team games as well as even in 1v1s, because that goes along really well with their defensive play to get like 2 TCs in Feudal Age, wall up with stronger HP on the walls. And I don't know, it could work, for a really good defensive into boom kind of style for Feudal Age. So the tech tree is pretty average for the archery range. They obviously are a cavalry archer civilization, so they get the upgrades there. For the infantry, for the barracks, they get champions, they get halberdier, and they get all the upgrades. So the tech tree is really good, but they don't really get any bonuses for it. So it's okay. It's a good option. Their stable is packed, so they get Hussar, Paladin, Bloodlines, Husbandry, stacked, stable, and they also get access to the Steppe Lancer, which is kind of like a Kamyuk on a horse. I think this will be very, very strong, especially just to mix in and take out some of the backline archers in fights. Definitely keep an eye on it. And they do get the Camel Rider, which is basically just a camel in the regular game. Moving on to the siege shop here, it's pretty good. They get Siege Onager, Siege Ram, Missing Scorpion, and Missing Bomber Cannon, Missing Heavy Scorpion and Bomber Cannon. But overall, pretty solid siege shop there. Their Blacksmith is pretty stacked as well, but they're missing a notable upgrade here, the Bracer. And you're thinking their unique unit is a cav archer. How can they be missing bracer? And I think this is just a balance thing. The unique unit is already very strong. They get all the upgrades on the cav archer except for the bracer. So I think that their cav archers will still be good. Their unique unit will still be good, even not having the bracer. So definitely a big hit to not have bracer, but I think it's, or else they would have been really, really overpowered. So they will still be strong even without this upgrade. For their other, for the dock, it's pretty, average. They get fast fire ship and galleon, but no real, bonuses there. University, they don't get siege engineer, so their siege isn't the best, but they get chemistry ballistics and, well, I don't know, not the really good university. But you get the kind of like the essential upgrades that everyone gets, so it's not a big deal. Note that you don't get any upgrades on the towers, though. That's probably the biggest thing to keep in mind. No guard towers could really hurt when you're under fire with mangonels, and you have to defend. You don't have the option to go for guard tower defense anymore, so definitely lacking in that department a little bit. So the Kipchak is here. There are the stats. It costs wood and gold, 60 wood, 35 gold. Think of it as exactly like, kind of like a Chukunu and a Mangudai mixed. It's a cav archer. Very, very strong. I can see this being probably one of the top tier team game civs just because of this unit, as well as a very deadly 1v1 civ with this unit combined with the Hussar and late game. Monk's pretty average, and the rest is not much to talk about here. So I think overall the civ, I can see them being weird, and it could be really strong and it could be just average as well. I don't see them being bottom tier at all. So I think they're probably going to be top 10. So I would say top tier. But I'm not sure if they're going to compete in the top 1 to 3, like with Meso Civs, for example, on 1v1 Arabia. I think the Civ will be very strong in team games, though. So team games, especially on semi-closed maps, will be very, very powerful. Let me quickly talk about the additional town center in Feudal Age, as well as the cavalry moving 10% faster. So the cavalry moving 10% faster in Feudal Age, this does two things. It lets you first, in Feudal Age, chase down their scout and actually be able to kill the scout. And then in Castle Age, since they get husbandry as well, it gives you the fastest knights in the game. So you can really, first of all, chase down knights, and second of all, be able to, be everywhere on the map just that much faster. So I think that's actually a very strong bonus. And then for the town center in Feudal Age, I don't know whether it's going to be fast feudal, drop the TC right away meta, because I think that has its issues. And I think the town center in Feudal Age might be really good for extended Feudal Age play rather than just get it and boom. Because if you get it right away in Feudal Age, basically you're giving free map control to your opponent. And then if they punish you by going for a tower rush, for example, you could just end up with 2 idle TCs because it's still a big investment to make a town center. All that wood and stone. And you won't be able to counter tower if you do make it. So I think it has its weaknesses to rush into it, but I think it can be really powerful for extended Feudal Age play where you're able to boom with 2 TCs as well as spam up their really fast scouts. So full scouts with the Civ, gonna be dangerous. I'm gonna be looking out for the Civ. This sounds really, really interesting to me. Probably a top 5 to 10 Civ. Not sure if it's gonna be top 1 to 3 though. At least for 1v1 Arabia. Alright, so quickly moving on here. Let's check out the Lithuanians next. And this is the third Civ on the list. So they're a cavalry and monk civilization. They start with 150 extra food. So right away I'm thinking that could be really good for fast Feudal Age, either for scouts or forwards. Then they get the spearman line and skirmishers moving 10% faster. So again, I'm thinking now about forwards, because a forward with spears and skirms moving faster could be a very good bonus. Each garrison relic gives a +1 attack to cavalry units. This is actually very interesting. Now I'm thinking maybe this is an arena like Civ, because that, arena you get the relics early, and then you just get +1 attack on all cavalry civs for the rest of the game. That could be a very interesting bonus here. The unique unit is the lightest, which is a cavalry unit. Unique text is hill forts, so town center is getting +3 range, and tower shields, which is spearman line and skirmishers, +1 pierce armor. I think the tower shields is going to be a very relevant technology, especially in the late game. And then hill forts is actually not too bad. I don't really see a specific use for it. It might just help for late game raid prevention. So I think both of these are more for the later stages of the game. And then their team bonus, monasteries work 20% faster. It's not bad, but it's not amazing either. So it's okay. The tech tree is pretty flexible for the archery range, only missing out on arbalest. Barracks, same thing, so no big bonuses for the militia line. However, they do get the faster moving spears, which is definitely very nice, and the faster moving skirmishes as well. All the barrack techs, as well as all the stable technologies as well. So Paladin Hussar. All the civs we've checked out so far have had Paladin Hussar, so a lot of these are really, really strong cavalry civs in both late game team games as well as 1v1. So keep an eye out for these civs being strong with the cavalry units. The Siege Workshop, pretty lackluster onager cap ram, but they do get the bomber cannon, which is pretty nice. Although they're lacking arbalest, so like the fast arbalest bomber cannon is not going to be great, but they still get hand cannoneer and bomber cannon, so they can counter some early game infantry civs no problem. The blacksmith is very flexible, only missing out on the infantry last armor. Not a big deal. I think this is still a very solid blacksmith, especially considering their options, which is going to be mainly cavalry, maybe some cav archer as well. Their dock is actually very nice this time around. So fast fire ship, elite cannon galleon, and galleon, only missing out on the heavy demo. They also get a lot of the important texts and missing out on shipwright. So a pretty solid dock, not amazing, not too bad either. University is very flexible. However, they are missing out a very important tech, siege engineers. So again, siege kind of lacking in that department, but the rest is very good. They do get bomber cannon and keep as well. So the lightest, let's check out the lightest. So it's basically a cavalry unit that ignores all armor. So I don't know how this stacks up in real games. I've heard it's not the best unit, and its bonus is like the fact that it ignores armor is actually not as relevant as it sounds. And I think normally the Paladin would just be the better unit to go for in melee fights anyway. However, it could be an interesting option, especially against like, I don't know, like Teutonic Knights or maybe Boyars even. It has its niche moments, although I don't think it could be better than the Paladin in most cases. And then checking out their monk text, so they get all access to all the monk text, as well as faster working monasteries. So their monk rush, very, very strong. Let me quickly talk about one last thing here. So each garrisoned relic gives +1 attack to cavalry units. How impactful is this? I think, like I said, on Arena, it could be very strong because you go for the relics quite often. However, it could be a very telegraphed strategy as well, because your opponent can know you're going to go for the relics and easily patrol some scouts nearby to prevent you from getting them. Also, I think this is kind of irrelevant in team games because you usually won't get access to too many relics. And so I think this is a good bonus on paper, and if you get 5 relics, it could be really strong. However, normally it's just going to be like 1 or 2 relics and kind of not the best bonus in the end, because having extra attack on cavalry isn't that impactful. If this was extra armor, it would be completely broken, but extra attack, not as great as it sounds. However, I think this civ will be probably a mid-tier civ, because they have and I know a lot of these civs are coming into mid-tier because they do have a really good early game with their food start and their forwards, and they really have some strong late game options with their unique techs, as well as some of their tech tree is very open, very flexible, and then having the option to go for really strong monks with a lot of the techs as well as the faster producing monasteries just seems like an overall solid civ. But doesn't really specialize in anything aside from the early game, forward or early game start with the extra food. All right, so go ahead and move on to the last civ of the day. So the last new civ of the expansion is going to be the Tatars, or the Tatars. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But yeah, it's going to be a cavalry archer civilization. So most of these civs have been cav archer or cavalry in general. So it's quite interesting to see that. I like it. I'm a fan of those units. So let's check it out. Their sheep contain 50% extra food, so a little bit of an early game bonus. Nothing too drastic though. Units deal plus 25% damage when fighting from higher elevation. This is interesting. Right away I'm thinking that camping hills with the civ will be the way to go, especially on 1v1 Arabia. And the hill bonus is already very strong as it stands. Adding an extra 25% damage is gonna make it completely nuts. So you have to be really careful about the civ and fighting downhill. More so than normal. Parthian tactics is going to be free, which is going to be really good for their Imperial Age cav archer play. The unique unit is the Kipchak, which is a cavalry unit, and their unique text is going to be silk armor, giving their light cavalry and cav archers an extra +1 pierce armor. I think this is a very important upgrade. This is going to make their hussar and cav archer late game incredibly powerful. Having an extra pierce armor on a cavalry unit is super strong because it lets it soak that much more arrow fire. So I think definitely keep an eye out for late game Tatars with their heavy cav archer hussar play. This upgrade just by itself makes the late game really, really strong. Timurid Siegecraft trebuchets +1 range. That could be really good, especially in Treb fights. Although it's it doesn't really play that big a role aside from treb fights. So you know, it's good in niche situations, not the best in general. And then the team bonus is cav archers plus 2 line of sight. Not bad, not great, it's okay. So for the tech tree here, they have all the upgrades on heavy cav archers, and thumb ring Parthian tactics coming in for free. They do get access to hand cannoneer as well. Their barracks is pretty lackluster though. They don't get halberdier, they don't even get champion. So their barrack techs or their barrack options, not great. Although they can do men at arm rush just fine, so not a big deal there. Their stable is stacked as well. They have Hussar, they have Cavalier, but not Paladin. But again, Hussar is the really important one here. They also get heavy camels, and they get the elite Steppe Lancer, which is definitely a pretty good addition here. Their siege units, siege ram is really good. Onager is okay, and heavy scorpions, you know, good as well. So overall, missing bomber cannon, missing siege onager. Not the best siege, not the worst. Blacksmith is very wide open, except the fact that they're missing the 2 infantry armor. So again, infantry is a big no-no with this Civ. Definitely don't try to go for infantry. Stick with cav archers and cavalry. Their naval is pretty solid. They get, you know, very wide tech tree, only missing out on heavy demo ship and shipwright. Not a big deal. I think they'll have a decent dock. Nothing crazy, nothing too bad. Their university, let's see here, siege engineers, that's the main one. Helps their siege out a little bit. They are missing arrow slits and keep, so not the best late game towers. But other than that, university is pretty standard. Overall here for the Kipchak, so this unit is a little bit interesting. It generates gold when it fights, and I know this sounds really strong, like really good on paper. However, the gold it generates is really not that much. It gives you, like, in a late game fight with 40 of these, you generate like 200 or 300 gold back, which is like another 4 of these. So it's not the best. I just don't think this unit will see that much play, honestly. It's not enough of a bonus to see, you know, to justify seeing play. Quickly taking a look at the monastery, very standard, and then the economy is pretty standard as well. So let's talk about how I see the Civ stacking up in you know, in the tier list and what I think of it overall. So I think its early game is kind of average. It's even subpar because they get really not that much bonuses for early game. They get sheep containing more food, could be good. It's just overall decent bonus. But other than that, you know, not much going on for the early game, early feudal. The hill bonus is okay for feudal, but nothing crazy. More of a castle and imperial age thing. So definitely a average early game. Mid game could be very interesting because that's when they start playing with the hills. You know, microing cav archers on hills. You know, crossbows, whatever the case may be. You know, fighting on those hills could be a really good way to gain an advantage with this. But I think the Civ really shines in the late game. Partisan tactics for free. It lets you jump straight into the cav archer production, getting all the important upgrades, and lets you save your resources to invest into the Hussar line and getting the silk armor unique tech, which light cavalry or Hussar plus heavy cav archer in the late game will be absolutely insane with the Civ. And if you mix that in with a couple trebuchets with extra range, it could just make for a really solid late game combination. They also don't get the best siege, so you can't really complement that with that much siege. But I think just, you know, sticking with the treb is definitely the way to go. So overall, I probably rate this Civ in the mid tier. Like, it could be really strong in certain situations, like in late game fights or in you know, on hills and stuff like that. But other than that, it's kind of just like an average Civ. It doesn't have access to halberdier, so it could be vulnerable in certain situations. So yeah, definitely a mid tier Civ for me. Shines in team games though with the late game cav archers. So yeah, definitely mid tier for One Field in Arabia, but has a lot of really good strengths, especially in the late game. If you guys are a newer player, I think this Civ could be very strong because it has just an insane late game, as well as a lot of really good strong options to go for. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little video here where I just went over some of the new Civs. I do plan to do, like I said, a more detailed overview of some of the Civs. So I'm planning a how to play series. So it's like how to play Aztecs, or how to play the what are they called? Let's say how to play the Tatars. Well, basically, I'm going to show the tech tree, show exactly the options you want to go for in a very detailed fashion, and then I'll play one ranked game with that civilization as well to see how the theory actually plays in action. So that's the series I'm planning for Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. I will not start the series until the actual game is released and until my Road to 2K guide is finished as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like and comment and give me some feedback about the new game. Let me know if you guys are just as excited for it as I am, and finding out the new civilization strengths and weaknesses, as well as how they stack up in the real meta. So thank you all for watching. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.